Hello, Sagittarius. Something about your energy right now feels like a pause in the middle of a long journey. Not the kind of pause where you're stuck, but kind of where you suddenly realize that the road you've been traveling might not actually be the road you want anymore. Some of you have been questioning your direction lately, and maybe not out loud, but quietly in your own mind. Looking at certain responsibilities, maybe relationships, maybe ambitions, but you're thinking, why doesn't this feel the same anymore? And that feeling can be very unsettling. And for Sagittarius energy, usually you love momentum, exploration, new experiences. But right now, I get the sense that many of you out there are reevaluating what actually deserves your energy. For some of you, it might be a social circle that once felt exciting, but now kind of feels draining. For others, it could be a career goal that once felt important, but suddenly seems like it belongs to a younger version of yourself. And that's really interesting. When priorities shift like that, it usually means that something deeper is changing internally. You're redefining what success means, maybe even letting go of the need for constant validation. That's not always easy. Sometimes growth doesn't feel like excitement. It feels like quiet honesty. Well, welcome back to Hermit in the Woods Tarot. My name is Matt. And if you are new here, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It always amazes how this small cabin in the woods somehow reaches people all over the world who might be searching for a little clarity. And if you have questions or topics you'd like to explore in future readings, feel free to leave those in the comments too. As always, this reading is general. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Always trust your own intuition above anything I say here. I'm just here for guidance, and one thing I'd like to remember is that something the forest reminds us of constantly is that growth is rarely loud. Most transformation happens quietly, below the surface, long before anyone else sees it. This channel isn't about fantasy escape or dramatic predictions. It's more about reflection, truth-seeking, personal growth. And for Sagittarius, today's energy feels like kind of a turning point, not because something dramatic is happening, but because something inside you is shifting. So let's pull some cards and see what the story is going to tell us for the next week of March. Although this reading can represent any time in your future. Could happen years from now, could happen next week, it could happen 2 months from now, or maybe you can just learn something. So time is relative. Anyways, today I'm using the House of the Dragon tarot deck. It's one of my favorite shows. Although I really loved Game of Thrones, but the ending really sucked. And I think a lot of people feel that way, but yeah, it's but the House of the Dragon was good, and I guess the next season comes out in June, so excited about that. And then there's the new series, which is Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and that, it's a little more comedic than past ones, I think. Well, I guess Game of Thrones was kind of funny, but anyways, so I'm using the House of Dragon tarot deck, and I work with the spread, which is called the Iron Throne spread, and the idea behind this spread is very interesting. It explores the path claiming to what is rightfully yours in life, and it's not through force, but through understanding your position, recognizing your power, and making the right decisions at the right moment. And it looks at themes like power, positioning, choices, destiny, and the path towards stepping fully into your life. And for Sagittarius, the theme coming today, I feel like, is there's this quiet power shift, and you're starting to redefine what truly makes you happy. Alright, so let's see what we get. Begin pulling some cards, and then I pull a spirit message, and I also pull 2 clarifying cards later on to see where the week after will. The cards are just flying out of my hands today. Odd. So how is it for Sagittarius people out there? Hope you're having a good week. Obviously, the events in the world just aren't good. Prices are skyrocketing. We need probably not one president. We probably need like 3 of them, because after the mess this guy left us, we're going to need a lot of people to fix the mess the Republicans are leaving. Whoever comes into next, it's going to be terrible. But anyways, I digress. The first card I pull is the 9 of Dragons. And right away I'm getting, this is the Dragon's Eye, and this is obstacles. And something about this card immediately feels like a mental fog lifting. Next we pull the 4 of Tankards, and that is in reverse. And the 8 of Tankards. So I see a common theme. It looks like fog is lifting. And then there was 4 cups, which moved to 8. So there must be some different things happening. Yep, there it is. The Wheel of Fortune. But that is in reverse, so we'll see what that's going to lead us to. And one more. And the Star. And that also is in reverse. Alright, now we need the spirit message. Let's get a spirit message. Then we'll move on into this reading. And the Magician. Right away, the Magician, that's about, looks like possibly maybe training, education. Well, let's focus on the Nine of Dragons. And the Nine of Dragons, it often shows up after a period where things didn't make sense emotionally. So let's sit at the table for a moment and just kind of get in the reading here, these cards. It feels like some of you have recently been questioning decisions you made earlier. Maybe wondering if you chose the right direction in a relationship, maybe a career path or personal goal. But what's interesting is that the confusion seems to be clearing now. You're starting to see things more honestly. For some of you, this might involve recognizing you've outgrown certain dynamics. Maybe friendships that used to feel supportive, but now feel heavy. It's not necessarily conflict. It's more like emotional distance. And I feel like some of you probably get in your own families, and so that it's that time where you used to go out with your friends, but now you had maybe a few children. You're in your work environment, and your focus is changing, and the same thing is happening to your friends. And sometimes clarity comes after exhaustion. When you've spent too long trying to hold something together that no longer fits, it's hard to let go of a life that you once had in the past. But, you know, life changes really constantly. And I think, you know, as people get older, they realize that there's confidence that comes from knowing yourself better. But so let's move into the Four of Tankards, which this is reversed. And this card is very interesting because the Four of Tankards, it's not a loud confidence, it's quieter than that. I keep coming back to this idea that you're stepping out of people-pleasing patterns. Some Sagittarius viewers may be realizing that constantly showing up for everyone else has left them emotionally drained. And now you're asking yourself something important. What actually matters to me? And that question alone can change everything. Confidence isn't always about pushing forward. Sometimes it's about learning when to step back. And next we got the Eight of Tankards, which this card in the Iron, or this spot in the Iron Throne is who held this throne before you. And with this card, it speaks directly to your past energy. It's the feeling of walking away from something that used to feel meaningful, but doesn't quite feel the same anymore. And it's not out of anger, it's out of quiet realization. For some of you, this could connect to leaving a relationship that no longer felt emotionally fulfilling. For others, it might be stepping away from a career path that looked good on paper but didn't feel right eternally. Something about this card suggests that you are searching for something deeper, And that search may have felt uncertain at first, but the slow path is sometimes the right path. And that's one of the hermit truths. So next we get into the Wheel of Fortune reverse. And this is the window, and it's also your hidden strengths. This is where the reading becomes very, very interesting. And the Wheel of Fortune reverse suggests that some of the right things that felt like setbacks recently may actually be part of your larger shift. Something about timing. And this could be weeks from now, this could be next week, this could be months from now. But some of you, this could involve seeing somebody's intentions more clearly, maybe realizing why a relationship felt distant or inconsistent. And for others, I feel like it involves understanding why certain opportunities might not have worked out. So you really need to dive into these ideas and see how that makes you feel. Sometimes clarity comes from when we stop forcing the situation or forcing for answers. And when that happens, life starts moving again. Next we have the Star, and this card feels really beautiful here. The Star it's a quiet hope. It is in reverse. It's not a dramatic excitement. It's more like peace returning after confusion. Something about this card suggests that emotional clarity is leading to action. For some of you out there, this could mean reconnecting with a passion that you set aside years ago. I feel like this is creative work, maybe writing, music, building something meaningful. For others, it could be possibly rebuilding a new life after a period of emotional exhaustion. Basically, you're lighting a lantern in the dark. But the Star, it doesn't rush, it just guides us. Alright, so let's move into the Spirit message. And this is the Magician. And when I look at the Magician, I see he's got documents on the table. He's got an egg in his hand. There's a sword on the table. And it's almost like he's studying these items. He's learning something from it. And it feels like the deeper message of the reading. And the Magician is about reclaiming personal power, but not in a loud way. It's more like remembering that you still have choices again. For some Sagittarius viewers, again, this could be the beginning of a creative project, this new business idea, or just a lifestyle change. Maybe you're just simply trusting your instincts again. And I keep coming back to this feeling from the beginning of the message that you're discovering parts of yourself that got buried under responsibilities. And once you recognize that, everything will change. Let's talk about the astrological energy expansion that's going on in the currently and also in the next week or two. The broader energy around you, I feel like early March brings an interesting alignment when Venus meets Saturn in Aries. And it's activating your area of romance, creativity, self-expression. And that makes sense. That combination asks for maturity. In relationships, it can bring serious conversations. You might find yourself asking whether a connection has real depth, or if it's just familiar to you. And creatively, it can also push you to take something you love more seriously. And this could be a hobby becoming a real project. A passion becomes something you shared with others. Like for me, and I am Scorpio, so I'm not a Sagittarius, but for me, I've been unemployed for about 9 months. Would like to finish my MBA, but if I don't get working soon, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go. I start in summer, my last 2 classes, and I'll have my MBA in accounting. But yeah, it's like I'm going on interviews, so I had a few interviews the last couple of weeks, and I'm really hopeful, but it's definitely a struggle out there. This economy is very difficult to find work. But I was raking up out the yard, while I got time off, and I was like, oh yeah, I should probably maybe try offering my services to that, and raking, trimming hedges or yard work, maybe not total cutting of trees down, but like maybe small branches that I can reach from a ladder, or maybe some trimming stuff like that. I posted on LinkedIn and Facebook, but haven't really had any luck. I think the economy, it's not there. But for Sagittarius, maybe making this hobby that you do could become a real project. A passion becoming something you shared with others. Then as Mercury harmonizes with Jupiter, communication will become more productive. And for some Sagittarius viewers, I feel like you may have important discussions around finances, shared commitments, long-term plans. And to be honest, I think just about everybody in the U.S. and possibly even the world, because with this war going on, it's they say this war costs $11,500, and this is for U.S. Americans. It costs them $11,500 per second. But don't give anybody health care. Don't give anybody some stability. Don't give them education. No. We got to go to war and make the warmongers rich. So yeah, $11,000 per second. But I think a lot of us in the world are trying to conserve, pull back, be financially wary of where we're going. It's gonna be scary times out there. But what I like most about this energy in Sagittarius moon returning to your sign, and it tends to restore confidence, momentum, and it reminds you who you are when you're not carrying everyone else's expectations. And there's a story I was thinking about while looking at the cards. A traveler once walked through the forest searching for a hidden village, and he had been told it was somewhere beyond the mountains, but the path kept splitting into smaller trails. After days of walking, the traveler became frustrated and sat beside a tree. And the night began to fall. He lit a small lantern and placed it on the ground. And in that quiet moment, he noticed something he hadn't seen before. A very faint path, almost invisible during the day. Glowing slightly in the lantern light, the path had been there the entire time. He had simply been moving too quickly to notice it. And sometimes life works that way. Clarity arrives when we stop forcing the journey. There's a verse that speaks to that idea. Psalm 119, 105. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Not a spotlight revealing everything ahead, just enough light for the next step. And there's also another verse I think about often. Be still and know. And that's Psalm 46:10. And sometimes stillness is where wisdom appears. Alright, so let's pull some clarifying cards. How is Sagittarius out there? Put in the comments. And if this resonates, put in the comments, I claim my power. Alright, so first card, the Sun. And that's where that power card's coming. Claim that power. And next we get the Nine of Blades, and that is in reverse. So the Sun, this is a beautiful confirmation. The Sun suggests that clarity eventually will lead to joy, but interestingly, it doesn't feel like sudden happiness. It's more like rediscovering what genuinely lights you up. For some Sagittarius viewers may reconnect with something simple that brings energy back to life. That could be travel, learning, creative expression, even reconnecting with family members after time apart. The Nine of Blades here in reverse. This card adds an important layer. Because the Sun arrives before the Nine of Swords, there may be a period of overthinking. Late nights replaying conversations, wondering if you made the right decisions. Did you say the right thing at that interview? That's normal when life changes directions. But something about this reading suggests those worries begin to dissolve once you trust your instincts. That hidden strength is returning. So Sagittarius, this reading feels less about dramatic change, and more about quiet realignment. You may be recognizing that certain things in your life no longer match who you're becoming, and that's okay. Growth often asks us to release what once made sense, but in doing so, we discover something better, and that's authenticity. But thank you for spending this time here at Hermit in the Woods Tarot. If this reading resonated with you, don't forget to like video, subscribe to the channel, share in the comments where you're watching from. I always enjoy hearing which part of the reading spoke to you the most. Your support helps this little cabin in the woods continue to reach people who might need a moment of reflection. Liking, subscribing is free. It doesn't cost you anything. Just a few seconds of your time. But I'll leave you with one final thought too. Sometimes the answers we're searching for were never far away. They were simply waiting in the quiet. Again, thank you for watching.